All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to Math 104 for summer 2020 um, quarantine edition. So my name's Max Wimberly, and I'm going to be your instructor for the summer. Um, I'm currently a math graduate student at Berkeley. I just finished my fifth year um, in the department here, and I study algebraic combinatorics for what it's worth. And I've taught I've taught basically every semester that I've been here, every normal semester. And I actually taught this class last summer. So hopefully that bit of experience is helpful in handling this new strange format that we have to teach in here. But, as I'm sure you're all aware, this is a very new thing for everyone, and it's inevitable that there are going to be some bumps along the way. So just I ask that you bear with me throughout this, and I appreciate all of you guys' patience and enthusiasm and willingness to engage. So with that, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the class a little bit and try to explain some of the format of how we're going to be doing things. So the first thing I want to make clear, or the first thing that I really want to emphasize, is please keep your eyes peeled for the announcements on the B courses page, okay? That is by far the most critical thing for you to pay attention to, because all of the information is basically going to be flowing through the announcements, okay? And it's like, as far as I can tell, it's the best way for me to get information to everyone in a timely way. So yeah, just make sure the announcements should be sending stuff to your email, hopefully. So apologies if it's kind of spammy, but so you'll see stuff in your email, and you can also just see it directly on the B courses page itself. I would recommend just keeping the B courses page open in a tab or something, and just every time you're trying to do anything for the class at all, like just look at the announcements first. Okay, that's kind of my recommendation. Now, so other than that, right? So B courses is kind of the central hub of everything, right? And so there's kind of this like constellation of different digital like platforms and services that I'm going to be using. So the lectures, right? So the sort of the structure of the class, and this is all explained in the syllabus, which you can see on B courses too. But the structure of the class is that there will be these pre-recorded lectures that I'll kind of break up into little digestible segments, and I'll put those on YouTube, okay? And each total lecture is going to be kind of like probably a playlist of sort of these 10 to 15 minute long little sections. And those, every time there's going to be a lecture, I'll make an announcement. Like every time it's uploaded, I'll make an announcement about it. And there's going to be problems, or they're like little questions in the lectures, okay, which are not meant to be difficult. They're kind of more there just to motivate you guys to watch the lectures and be engaged with them and pay attention to them, and to try to keep it, stimulating, I guess. And so what I'm going to be doing is there will be like several questions throughout each lecture, okay? Most of those are just going to be completely like informal. I'll just say a question, give you a chance to pause the video and think about it, and then I'll move on. Every once in a while, I will highlight a question during the lecture as an important one, and those are the ones that, like, I'll say, like, this is lecture N, question M, and that will be something that I want you to actually try to answer on the homework. And your answer doesn't have to be right, okay? You just have to make your best honest effort in a couple minutes or whatever. It shouldn't be a long affair, okay? To just think about the question, formulate an idea, express your answer in your own words, okay, and just include that with your homework submission, okay? And that's just going to be a small kind of a completion thing in the homeworks, okay? And I'm going to try to make it as clear as possible. I don't want this to be tricking anyone. I don't want anyone to be sort of caught unawares about the lecture questions. Okay, they are in there, and you'll see it on the homework too. I'll remind everyone, like in the homework, it'll say, remember that you're responsible for these lecture questions. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry it's a little bit, might seem a little bit underhanded or something, but it's really the best way I could think of to try to make it engaging. Because normally in a classroom setting, I would just be posing questions to people directly, and that doesn't exactly work here. Okay, so we talked about the lecture questions. Now, there's going to be weekly homework assignments, okay, right? And that's where you put the lecture questions, but there's going to be other questions too, which I'll draw from the textbook usually, okay? There will probably, I'm aiming for about 8 to 10 normal problems, maybe more, maybe a little bit more. Let's say about 10 normal problems per homework. Now, out of the normal problems, 2 of them I'll tell the grader to actually grade in detail. Okay, but as it stands, I'm not intending on making it clear which problems I'm going to tell the grader to grade. So you should really do your best on all of the problems. I know, like, sometimes the homeworks might seem a bit long, but you just got to remember that this is a fast-paced class because it's condensed down into these 8 weeks, right? And we have lecture every day. So it's really important for you to stay on top of the lectures, and like falling behind by just a few days in this context is the equivalent of falling behind by like a week or 2 in a normal, like if you think about it, right, in terms of the number of lectures. If you miss like a week of this class, that could be like two weeks, or yeah, 1.5 or 2 weeks of like a normal class during the semester, right? So my recommendation is really just to watch the lecture every day, come to the problem discussion if you can, and do the homework problems that you can do for that day. Okay, so try to do the homework progressively. Don't let it all wait until the end of the week or whatever. The homeworks are due on Saturdays, okay, and each homework is essentially basically drawing problems from the preceding week's material. So yeah, and so the 2 problems that I have that I'll select to be graded, each of those will be worth like 4 points. And then the lecture questions will be a 2-point completion thing. So that's a total of 10 points per homework. Let's see, so that's the homeworks. Oh yeah, and about collaboration. So I do encourage collaboration. I'm gonna talk about this more in a little bit, but one thing I wanna say is collaboration should not involve copying, obviously, right? So it's really important that you should be writing your solutions in your own words, okay? Maybe you get the important idea for the solution from a friend in the course of discussion. That's natural, that happens sometimes. But then you have to take that idea, you have to understand that idea, and then you have to express it yourself, okay? And I will be instructing the grader to pay attention to whether there are solutions that have, very sort of eerily similar wording. Obviously, maybe it looks like you just changed notation, changed some symbols from one to the next. It's usually transparent when that happens, so I definitely recommend against doing that. But I do think collaboration can be good. So I'm not trying to say don't collaborate. Now collaboration, well, I'll talk more about it in a second. Let me get through the kind of basics of the class, okay? There are these problem sessions, right? So that's kind of like the other half of like lecture. What would normally be lecture, okay, is like, there's the lecture part where I explain stuff. Those are the pre-recorded videos. And then there are these problem sessions that are kind of like discussion sections during the normal semester. And basically I'll kind of like pick out a couple problems from the textbook which resemble the homework problems, but are not exactly the same. And those problems we will go through together. I'll probably, my current plan is basically to try to give you guys a couple minutes to think about the problems yourselves, maybe put you guys in some, breakout rooms to discuss with each other. And then I'll sort of walk you through the solution and we can discuss it, in whatever ways feels natural, I guess. I think those can be really good if you can make them. I'm going to try to schedule it in a way that like as many people can make them as possible. I think inevitably some people might not be able to make any of them, which is unfortunate. But for those people, I would say you still have the option of posting questions on Piazza, which I definitely recommend everyone does. Okay, Piazza is like a great. That's like the forum for asking me questions. I'll be checking Piazza and I'll answer questions. I'll be attentive to that. So you can use Piazza, or you can, if you want, you can email me. I would prefer you didn't do that. And you can also, if you really want to, you can schedule an appointment that'll be kind of like office hours. I'll have normal office hours, but if you can't make those office hours and you desperately need to talk to me, you can always schedule an appointment, and email is fine for that probably. So yeah, and as far as so that's the Zoom problem sessions. And oh yeah, one thing about this is, okay, so the problem sessions, the Zoom problem sessions, I want them to be based on the same, they should correspond to the same day's lecture material. So it's going to be a little bit tight. What I'm going to try to do is post each lecture on YouTube like the night before the date that it's scheduled. So you'll have the whole like early part of that day to be able to watch that lecture. And then for the problem sessions, for the problem sessions, hopefully everyone will have been able to see. If you don't watch the lecture before the problem session, it'll be a little bit weird. So yeah, you'll have to watch the lecture first for that day, and I'll try to give you. I might even post it earlier, like I might try to post it the day before or something like that, and then the problem session. That way everyone will be on the same page for the problem session. Okay. So yeah, the lectures will probably lead the problem sessions by a little bit. And that means the lectures will probably lead the day that they're scheduled for by a little bit too. Let's see, so that's lectures and problem sessions. And take-home exams, right? So there's gonna be 3 exams, 2 midterms and a final. They're all kind of gonna be the same format, which is basically it's kind of like a homework that you have 24 hours to do, where the questions are not drawn from the textbook. They're going to be questions that I write myself. I'm going to obviously try to make them not Googleable, right? So be prepared for that. What I have in mind right now for the exams is actually that I'll give you like so many problems, and I'll say like choose some smaller number out of these to do. Okay. So maybe there'll be like 10 problems, and I'll say like choose 5 or 6 to do or something like that. Okay, that's probably going to be the format. And again, same stuff about like cheating and copying applies. Okay, I'm going to be grading the exams, and I mean, I have a lot of experience by this point. I've caught people cheating before. I've seen it in a number of forms, and so I know how to recognize it. And if there's anything I can do about it, I will. Okay, I know that. Like this format, I think might make it a little bit more tempting for people to try to fudge stuff as far as honesty goes. And I very strongly discourage you from doing that. At the end of the day, what you have to remember is that if you cheat on this stuff, even if you get away with it, you've harmed yourself. I mean, you've harmed other people too, but you've also harmed yourself because you've prevented yourself from really learning anything really valuable. So that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, so office hours, there's going to be 3 hour-long sessions, I guess, per week probably. This is still a little bit in flux, especially because not everyone's answered the scheduling poll yet, which I implore you all to do. But basically, yeah, based on the scheduling poll, I'll schedule those office hours. And then the bottom line is, if nothing else works for you, then you can always try to make an appointment or post stuff on Piazza. That's kind of like, that should be there for everyone as like a last line of defense, to communicate with me and make sure everything's going smoothly. Okay. So with that, now I want to say a little bit about, and apologies, this video is going to be a little bit on the longer side. For for the lectures, I'll try to keep them broken into smaller pieces, but yeah. Let's see. So I want to say a little bit about strategies, okay? So strategies for succeeding in this class and for coping with it and learning the material, okay? So the first thing is that you should realize that the class is proof-oriented. Right? This is very important. You probably all are somewhat aware of this already, but I want to really emphasize this. What this really means is that, first of all, in the lectures, I'm going to be going through proofs, right? Like the structure of the material is as follows. We define some terms. We assert certain rules about how they work and how they interact with each other. There's a whole system. There's sort of this logical system for how you reason about these things. And we make statements about them and we prove those statements, right? So those statements are usually called things like propositions, lemmas, sometimes theorems, right? Stuff like that. And those are all going to be statements about terms that we define, and we will prove them, okay? And that's how we build the theory of analysis. And hopefully the proofs, I'm going to try to go through the proofs in a way that's actually illuminating, and I'm going to try to choose the proofs, which proofs I cover in a way that's like illuminating. So it's important to pay attention to that. But what it also means, the proof-oriented thing, what that also means is that you yourself are going to be having to prove things, okay? That's actually going to be the majority, like this significant majority of what you have to do in this class is understanding the concepts, reasoning logically about them, okay? So reason logically about material and express your ideas in words, okay? Not just in words, but in sentences, actually, complete English sentences. So you will be writing fully fleshed out thoughts in English, okay? That is very important. It's absolutely critical that you make your best effort to express yourself coherently and really convey the idea that's in your head as much as you can. Because here's the thing, here's what you have to understand is that when it comes to grading, what I look at is just what you write down, okay? So it's sort of up to me to try to figure out from that whether you understand the material. So it's sort of like you have to view what you write down as your answers for things as kind of like you making the best case you can that you understand what's happening, right? And so the best way to do that is just to be very thorough, be very clear, and really don't leave anything up to interpretation. Like try to be very clear about everything you're saying, okay? Totally try to make everything unambiguous, okay? Now, second thing, so here's just another sort of tip that I have. Memorize definitions. Not every single definition, but like a lot of the fundamental definitions and also even some of the theorems and stuff like that, I would say it's helpful to memorize. I actually, for the version of the class that I taught last summer, I drew up a fairly comprehensive list of definitions and theorems in the book, in the textbook for this class, that I think are good to know by rote, okay? And actually in that version of the class, on the exams, I would actually have questions that were like, you know, state this definition, state this theorem, and so on, that were just sort of gimme points if you actually memorize the definitions, okay? I can't really do that this time because everyone can just look in the book and find them, but it still would be very helpful for you to memorize these things, because memorizing the definitions makes it infinitely easier for you to actually reason about the things, right? Like you understand that there's sort of a dependency here, that memorizing the definitions is not just like something you do for its own sake. It helps you do the actual important stuff that you have to do for this class. Okay, so absolutely do that. So the next thing I would say is do the homeworks. This one seems obvious probably, but what I really mean, so maybe I should write, do the homeworks seriously. So what I mean by that is, when it comes to homework, this should be the process that you go through, okay? You look at the homework, you give yourself a chance to think about the homework on your own, okay? That's important. You need to give yourself a decent chance to really think about the homework on your own, because at the end, right, like in the end, when it comes to exams and stuff, you're going to be on your own. Okay. At the, like where it really matters, you're not going to be able to rely on other people to help you with the problems. Okay. At least unless you're being dishonest. So give yourself a chance to do the homeworks on your own. Then if you are having difficulty with it, that's maybe when it's a good time to approach other people to try to, try to collaborate on it or whatever. Then after you've turned the homework in, I will be posting solutions to all the homeworks, obviously, eventually, right, after they're due. Then for any questions that you feel like you didn't quite like fully get after you turn the homework in, go to the solutions, read the solutions for those questions and compare them to what you did, okay? And really try to like pick apart what the differences are between the correct solution and what you did or whatever. Even for questions that you feel like you did get, it's actually probably a good idea to still go to the solutions and compare, because when it comes to proof stuff, usually there are a lot of different ways of solving a problem. There are a lot of different ways of proving any given thing. And so maybe there's a more elegant, more efficient technique, or just a useful technique that might be demonstrated in one of the solutions that I post that you might not have seen before, even if you got the problem correct. Okay. So, but really like critically analyzing the solutions and what you did after the fact will be immensely helpful. I swear, that's how you learn. So let's see. So yeah, I guess read the solutions later. Seriously. Okay. Last thing, come to office hours. Oops. Come to office hours or otherwise ask questions however you can. Okay. Do not be afraid to ask questions. All of the places that I'm providing you guys with to ask questions are there for a reason. Those are supposed to be a resource for you guys. Okay. Office hours, Piazza, my email, I guess, if you want, although like I said, that's not quite preferable, or appointments that you make, any of that stuff, anything, any way for you to ask me questions, I want you to use it. Okay. I'm not going to be frustrated. I'm not going to be annoyed by you asking me questions. I'm not going to judge the questions you ask. I'm not going to say, oh, like that's a silly question. Why would you ask that? No, you're all here trying to learn. Okay. And all I want to do is help you do that as much as I possibly can. Okay. So the more questions you ask me, the better. That gives me a sense of where you guys are at. Otherwise, I'm just talking into a void and I have no idea what's going on. Right. So do ask me questions, please. If you have any. I think Piazza is really the best place to do that, because other students can also answer questions on there too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Piazza, I'll be paying close attention to that. Do not hesitate to ask questions on Piazza, especially like if you're watching the lecture. What I would do if I were you is during the lecture, if you have a question, write it down. And if it gets answered, obviously, then good. Or if you figure it out. If it's not clear by the end of the lecture, then ask it on Piazza. Okay. All right. So anyway, I think that's all for this sort of introductory video. I'm looking forward to teaching all of you. And again, I hope this goes as smoothly as possible, but we'll see. Thank you all for your patience and understanding, and I'll see you again soon.